Hey kids, we are back. We're doing some painting today, and I wanted you just to think a little bit with me about what it's like when you go outside. Hopefully you don't hate nature, but the other day I had the chance to just look around this little garden space with my family. It's outside of a museum, absolutely adorable. But think about when you are outside, how do you feel? What are the things you can see, smell, taste, touch, and hear? See, smell, taste, touch, and hear. That's right. There's 5 senses. When you can observe the things that are around you, you can help calm your nervous system down. You can help calm your active, overactive brain. And then you can also focus on those things that bring you joy. And what can you find in nature to paint and to draw? So today I have procured a vase of florals because of some florals I picked at my friend's house, and we are painting sunflowers and other things, so some of it is fall inspired, but I encourage you to find your own inspiration, go on a walk, take a look at things. What inspires you to create, to put marks, brush strokes, pencil marks, whatever it is, on paper, and just see how you feel. Let's get into painting the bouquet today. I'm really excited. And I'm excited for you to try painting out in nature as well in the near future, I hope. Spraying down our paints here, making sure everything is ready to do all the fun stuff that we're gonna do today. So, I've got a variety of brushes. I've got my filberts, I've got my quill, and we're just going to start putting in some loose flowers. I mean, you know, here are the flowers, and they were foraged outside at my friend's house, so I'm very excited to just start diving in and making a nice loose version of this. So I'm going to go with my quill, take a round brush if you don't have a quill, and we're going to start doing some centers for our flowers, our zinnias. Now this is all, again, very loose, so I'm just looking at my flowers here and just making a little bit of the center here. Little dome shape. And there's another one up here too. So I'll just put that in. There's a lot of water on my brush, and I'm just not concerned about that. Just want to get these marks down, the major flowers. So now there's a sunflower, and it's kind of side facing. So we're just going to make this center here that you're going to end up seeing the rounded bits right here. So it's looking this way, it's kind of flatter here, and then the rounded part right there. So just stippling in. There we go. All right. And then we'll do another one here. So if you are here for the beginner tips, I always like to share beginner tips every once in a while because there's a lot of people that are beginners that will show up on this channel and, you know, what's the whole thing? What is this all about? I'd say the #1 beginner tip is just to let go of perfectionism in your art. That's part of my shtick, the thing that I try to promote the most. If you can let go of perfect, then you can let go of a lot of things in your life that you cannot control. And so today we are just putting these little brush strokes down to emulate the middles that we can see. And then we're just going to start putting in some marks and just see what happens. So cleaning my brush, grabbing some red, and I'm just going to start putting in these petals from the outside in. So just swooping around like this. I like to go from the outside in. It really helps me to feel controlled. From the inside out, that to me doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel right. That's all I can say. So we've got some pink here. You know, the second tip is to use a paper towel for water control. So I've got all this water on here, and if I don't want a puddle like this, I dab my brush. That'll take off some of that excess, and then I can just go ahead and paint these little streaks here. And I'm not getting the puddle on from my brush to my paper. And that makes me feel like I have a little more control. Hence the term water control. Boop. There we go. So what do you do after you've got some water control going on? You're letting go of perfectionism. What do you do then? You know, the next thing is to watch a lot of tutorials, not only this one, but from many other artists, many different styles, many different objects. I personally got stuck in, and I'm not complaining, but in the world of watercolor florals, and I love florals so much, but I think I didn't branch out till some years later when I had already been establishing myself with florals. And then I started teaching online and my audience was more about florals, and it really helps, or it's hard just to branch out and do something else if you don't feel comfortable. And so maybe doing that earlier on, just trying different things. If you're content with just doing one thing, that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just going to do these kind of side-facing flowers here. But I would say you might find subjects that you had no idea you loved if you branch out and you try them. And you could find out, the worst that happens, you find out, okay, I don't like this. And that's okay. Let's do some alizarin crimson here. But it's fun just to explore what is out there. So don't just write something off right away. These little swoopy petals. Try a whole bunch of things. And also, there might be a lot of things that you try, but different teachers will resonate more with you, of course. So but watch, and practice, practice, practice. You can't practice enough. There we go. All right, let's put in some sunflowers as we're starting to put these petals in. And I'm going to use my filbert, my trusty filbert, grabbing some of my yellow. And I've got these beautiful middles that are just starting to dry a little bit. Putting these in here, swooping from the outside in. You can see how beautiful this can turn out with a filbert brush. If you're interested in this brush or the set, it's from my set, my collection that I designed. And so you can click the link in the description if you're interested. Okay, that one is fun. That one's fluffy. I like how that one turned out. And then we can do a side facing over here too, where you're not going to see the middle. So we're just swooping around. Swoopity, swoopity, swoopity. We'll add in our stems later. And then over here too. So this is such a great brush, a filbert, whether it's this one or a different one that you got. They're just really fun. And they make things effortless, as you can see. You can even take the side of the brush and do some thin petals. Swooping them around. And then some more over here. All right, how about another beginner tip? So another one I like to tell people is to use a variety of brushes. And just to play around with them and see how they feel. Now with this filbert, I've been using a filbert for a while. So to me, you know, you're having to twist and turn it to get the thin and thick petals. And then the swooping motion this way, but then this way. It's a lot of muscle memory. And so practicing, especially the more difficult brushes where you have to kind of do more work to get them to do what you want them to do. But with great effort comes great results, and so it's so worth it. Let's take the quill again. We'll get some purple. I don't really love purple, but it's in the bouquet that I picked, so I think it'll be okay for today. A few little like kind of sweet peas. Well, they're from green beans or peas or whatever. So I'm just doing these like little kind of blobby shapes. And they're going to be on a vine or a stem. So we're just going to go on either side. Imagine the stem's in the middle. Really loose. And yeah, figuring out what kind of brushes you love. Grabbing some more water. What makes you happy? What makes you smile? I'm going to do some in here too. Think of like a heart shape, heart shape, heart shape, a wonky heart shape as well. This is a very loose version of this, so you might think you want to do something a little bit more, I don't know, realistic or something, and that's fine. This is a space to experiment and to use a lot of brushes in your work to discover how you can make the shapes that you love. What brushes can get you to that point. And you know, honestly, one artist using a type of brush, they'll get a different mark than another because of the hand movements and the way that they're manipulating that brush. So, but it's just, especially as a beginner, at least knowing how to use something. And if you don't know, go on YouTube and look up specific tutorials for how to use a certain brush, or maybe use it for flowers or whatever it is you're trying to paint. All right, so what I'm going to do next is we're going to take our pencil and we're going to just sketch a really quick vase. It's going to be in the middle here. And I like to sketch it because then it keeps me accountable to actually maintaining that shape. So we're looking at a jar here. Just really sketchy, quick lines. And then bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. What else can I do? Bring it in, bring it in. All right, so we've got this here at the top. And if you want to do like a little, you know, I don't think I'm gonna do actually anything with the jar at the top because I'm pretty sure we're gonna fill this in with foliage. Now, there's a lot happening, but as you can see with my vase, maybe you could see it or not, but everything is just flowing outward. So what I wanna do now is just take a green color with my number 6 round. Whatever green, I'm sorry, this is off the screen. Just can't fit everything. And then we're just gonna put in these loose stems in places where I know I won't wanna add in more things like flowers. Okay, in this section here, I don't wanna just put stems because then I'm gonna have to put leaves over, and sometimes you can see the stem underneath where you put the leaf, and I like to leave it pretty open at first until I know exactly what I'm doing. But I do want to fill this in more. I can put stems here where we've got these beautiful sweet peas. So one line through it, very light pressure, and then connect everything with a diagonal mark. There we go. Diagonal, diagonal. And that thin stem, the light pressure, that thin stem is going to, I don't know, in my opinion, make it look more realistic. So here we are. You know, another beginner tip is to paint often and set a time. So I would encourage you to paint daily if you can, if you have the time, even if it's just 5 minutes a day. And just get, you know, a space going where you can just sit down and paint. That's going to make your life easier. No second guessing of like, do I have time to paint today? Where will I paint today? You know, is there a space to paint today? Just get to it. It's a really beautiful skill to start picking up where you can have some space for you, some time in your life. Let's put in some greenery. There's a lot of greenery happening in this vase. And so I'm just, you know, in the one I'm looking at, so I'm just going to put in some rounded leaves. Just kind of drawing in that shape at this point. And we can even make them darker later on. But I can take this filbert and I can kind of press like this and this and this. And I can make some gorgeous foliage to fill in this space. So you could say like 5 minutes a day. Let's just keep doing this, getting different greens involved as well if you like. 5 minutes a day. Can everyone do 5 minutes a day? Absolutely. You can be the most stressed person in the world, but you can find 5 minutes if it's important to you. That's the other thing. If it's not that important to you, don't do it. But you're here watching this tutorial. I'm assuming it must be fairly important to you to learn. Just doing these little marks. So, and you know, getting that habit going will really make a big difference in your watercolor game. And also make you feel good about you because you're taking space for yourself, which is so important. I think we might need something there. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna go with green, a dark green. I do love the shapes that this brush is creating. There we go. We can just put some here. See, I'm just like filling in that space. Boop. Okay, for this moment, I want to go in, do a little bit more with the stems. And so I'll put one in here. And this needs to be attached as well. Over here. Everybody needs to go into the jar, into the vase, right? So kind of have to angle things in that way. But it is a large spread, absolutely. So I want to start doing my jar, and I'm going to go with my turquoise. I usually do a turquoise because I love it. I'm going to go with, just going to outlining that pencil sketch. Right there. And I'd say the last tip, I think it's number 6. Let's do like a rounded part right here for the bottom of the jar. Don't have to make it perfect. The idea that it's rounded in there. It's a flat bottom. But the number 6 thing that I would say is to set up your space. So I said, like, you know, make sure to have space in your life to paint, right? But have a table. Let's take a clean damp brush and just kind of spread this out. Have a table where you can sit down, where this is your painting time, where your stuff is out already. And it's not like a kitchen to dining room table where you have to pick everything up so people can eat every day. It's just not motivating. If you can find like a little card table, something just simple that is yours and is your space. Let's grab some more greens here. I'm just gonna put in some marks to fill in this space, a little bit of a different green. I do love having these colors in between, filling up that space, making it a really nice thick bouquet. So right now, guys, you can go fast with this. Just doing some stippling, little blobs, or just some strokes, simple strokes to fill in some of that white space. When I first started watercolor, I did not have my own space, and I would have to pack everything up and, you know, just move it when it was time to eat. And that just didn't work well. Let's do some, like, a few taller flowers right here. Streak down here, streak, swoop it around a little bit. Some swoopy petals. And, or maybe just one. Clean, get some green. And so I did not paint that often until I went out and got a tiny little table, folding table, and I had it out in the corner of my living room, and that was my space. So highly encourage it. All right, let's do a bit of shadow. Let's do it on this side. So that same larger brush, quill, or round 10 or whatever you've got. And swirling that brush, I'm just going to make some streaky lines for some shadow. Very simple. So it's not just floating on the paper. And you let it be streaky like that. Grab a little more concentrated color. You can use black, you can use navy. And we're just going to pop in that color. Some streaks. Then take a clean damp brush. Spread it out. All right, and then let's do some stems. So I'm just going to take random greens in a very light color. We're not going to darken them up just because they're in the jar. If they're in water, they're going to look kind of diffused in the water too. And we don't want to make them too dark because then it'll be like they're outside of the vase. But just a bunch of them. I'm just kind of crisscrossing these shapes. It's as simple as that. And then we'll do our water line when that's dry. Clean damp brush. Let me take off some of this water. Okay. So how are you feeling about your painting so far? I hope you are enjoying yourself. Now we're gonna do some darkening up of some of these flowers. So let's see here. I'm looking at the pink ones. I'm gonna take the smaller brush, the number 6 round. Grab some pink on my palette. A lot darker, you can see. This is where we use the water control, okay, that we talked about. I'm gonna dab on the paper towel to take off that excess, and then I'm just gonna go from the outside in, using that side of the brush just to create some lines, some shadow. And then for this one too. So there's no like perfect way to do this. Just adding in a little extra. You can see a lot of these marks have faded as they dry, they get lighter. So we're just adding a little bit of that back in to the equation. Being a beginner can last a long time for some, or like you feel like you're a beginner, and maybe not as long for others. Kind of depends on how often you practice, your level of self-confidence, and if you call yourself something more than a beginner. Sometimes a person feels like a beginner for a decade. Maybe they're just not practicing as much, or they're not at the level they feel that they should be at. And friends, I'm here to tell you, let's do alizarin crimson, that it's not about all the narratives and if you're doing it right or wrong, you're practicing enough, comparing yourself to your neighbor, essentially, you know, your other friends that are doing watercolor or whatnot. It's about you feeling confident that you have done something more than the day before, than the week before, than the year before, that you're always learning and growing, that you're changing and ebbing and flowing. And it's not like you have to be at a certain place at a certain time in your life. Let's do some stems here. Everyone's watercolor journey is in different levels. Some people are faster, some people are slower, based on practice, based on aptitude, based on many things. Let's do some little lines to anchor these flowers here. We're just going to do that all around the side-facing ones. So don't compare yourself to someone else. Compare yourself to where you were before and how much progress you've made. It's, you know, it's kind of like, just don't expect perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. Look at how cute those are. And when we think we have to be perfect, then we get very anxious. We actually start performing more terribly. So it doesn't help us. All right, let's clean this brush. There's some green on there. Grab some yellow. Maybe it'll be orangey some places with that pink coming in. That's okay. And swoopy motion. See how beautiful. Just to darken up some of those marks that we've already put down in a few little places. This one too. Swooping in. This takes some practice. I'm just doing a little bit because I don't want to cover up everything. But you can see just a little pop of color makes it so cute and pretty. And it emphasizes certain aspects. Here's a little orangey yellow coming through. And then over here too. Boop. See, I have to angle my wrist. It's awkward. And that's it. I'm going to leave that. Even though my brain tells me to make it all even, I'm not going to. That's called self-control, people. And it is tough. All right, a little bit more here. And then we are going to, let's see, let's add some green over here. Just to kind of anchor everybody. You start to look around and say, okay, what do I need to add? Let's do some purple. So we're just doing concentrated purpley stuff. I guess the 7th beginner tip, and we're just going to do it at sort of the base of these flowers. Just little scriggly, sketchy marks. Dabbing, whatever you want to do. So the 7th thing is to, you know, do your first layer really light, let it dry. And then when it's dry, your second layer is going to have that dark concentration of color to bring in the texture and to bring in that contrast. The bold contrast is what creates that beautiful 3D look, you know, things popping off the page. It's very important. But you gotta give things time to rest, to dry, to be ready for the next layer. All right, and then for the greens, I'm just gonna go with the same smaller brush. And I'm just gonna darken up some of those spaces. Some little dots like this, some sweeps of color. And using different greens if you would like. You could do lines for your leaves, you know, little veins if you wanted to. I just like to keep it pretty simple. Simple's good. You can see just a few dabs or a few little swipes of color can make something stand out really well. And I do want to darken up our centers also a little bit. So I'm just, small brush, you know, we're doing more concentrated paint, less of a large layer, you know, covering less paper, I guess. So lots of concentrated brown. And then I'm going to dab it, and then I'm just going to go around and kind of, you know, go into that white space where I didn't quite put the petal all the way to the brown part so that it wouldn't bleed. And just stippling that color in. And over here, we definitely need some more. Sometimes it does bleed and it takes away some of that definition. And we want definition for our little sunflowers. So you want contrast everywhere that you can. And then over here, the outside of this circle. And lastly, one of the last things, I didn't anchor these flowers, so let's do that. Take a look. Is there anything else you need to change? We've got a couple more details. I'm going to do the splatter and I'm going to do the waterline. So a little bit of runny pink paint. And I'm just going to tap my brush in several sections to create this splattering of color. I love it. All right, let's do our waterline. So this beautiful paint right here, turquoise, blue, whatever. I'm going to grab that. And I'm just going to put my waterline just about here. Just kind of have to swoop down like that a little bit. Little sketchy lines. When it's in the middle of the journal, it's a little bit difficult, but that's okay. It can be done. So I did it there, and then, so that goes over this, and we will darken it too. And then on the other side, in between the stems, can kind of see it there. So let's darken it up a little bit over the stems. And then you can darken up vase too. Sometimes there's, you know, reflections in the water, in the glass. Just a few little marks. So clean, damp brush. Just spreading that out. Okay, very good. So we are basically done here. If there's anything else that you need to do, it's a good time to do it. But thanks for painting with me, and I hope it was very relaxing. I did want to point out my empty wall here. It's not because I threw away painting, so because I just reopened my Etsy shop. And it's been over a year, I think, since I had it open. So I'm excited. I have a whole stack of paintings up there. So if you're interested, at least just peruse, take a look. If you can favorite the shop or some paintings, it really helps me out. Share the page, all those things. Also, my waitlist for my Italy retreat 2026 is linked below. So definitely take advantage of that if you or someone you know would like to come with me to Italy. But we're going back next month with my little group. It's actually quite a nice size, or 15 people. And you know, not everyone gets to go to Italy, but we seized the day. And if you would like to join us, let me know. And if you don't know what to watch next, then here's a good one. Hopefully you enjoy yourself happy painting and happy mental health. Mwah!